I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. We've got, I think, some very interesting things to talk about as far as what can be done using QR codes and sharing information in the supply chain. So the plan here is I will give a quick introduction to the usability of QR codes and what we're trying to accomplish here, and talk about some applications, and then I will pass control over to Bruce Brown, who will show the software that he has developed to allow the implementation of this on a large scale, on an industrial mass scale. And then Paul Ruppnow from Andalor will show the software he's developed for taking advantage of these QR codes in processing reverse logistics. And I would say if you have any questions you want to jump in with as we go, just let me know, and we'll take it from here. So what we have created is a new system for using QR codes to share information with supply chain partners. And we have a very long list of different fields of information. I don't want to get too far into that, and that will make more sense as we get a little farther. But suffice it to say, we have a very long list of information that people might want to share. So we're calling these standardized QR codes for reverse logistics, although really they're more broadly applicable than just only reverse logistics. They have applications for really any sort of logistics. But so that's why we have the cute little squirrel there. So we think that these codes present quite some opportunity for streamline operations. We live in a smartphone era, and yet customers are continually frustrated by the paper-intensiveness of many processes. Go back to return something, and they want you to fill out this little card. Or when you go to register something, you have to fill out this little card. Now, some retailers, they just scan your receipt, or they look up swipe your credit card, and they can find it, but not everybody's got a seamless process. The customers want to know, what can I do with this product at the end of life as far as recycling it? How do you find the manuals? How do you figure out, how do you access the videos that you know you once saw about fixing the print head cartridge, yada, yada, yada. With this technology, we can help mitigate many of these frustrations that consumers have to increase customer satisfaction with the products that they've already purchased. On the sales and marketing side, we can put better information in the hands of customers to help them make better decisions, to help them be more informed, help them be more satisfied customers once they have the product in their home. So I don't want to spend too much time on these next couple of slides. And so at the risk of potentially, I'm not trying to insult anyone's knowledge here, but so in order to scan a QR code, so I asked my undergraduate students, and I'm going to say roughly a third of them had never scanned a QR code, and I think someone in their early 20s is more likely to be on the leading edge of technology versus some of us, demographically speaking. So you need a little reader. Like I have the QR reader on my phone, and I open it up, and I scan the picture from a cup from McDonald's that said on the side, scan this QR code for nutrition information. And when it scans that, the scanner pops up with this little mcd.com, because that's the text string that has been stored in that QR code. And so that automatically opens in my browser, which then that code redirects to the McDonald's main web page, and I can look up whatever nutrition information I want. Or this Home Depot picture is on a bag of bulb fertilizer, and if you scan that on the retail packaging on the store shelf, it'll tell you how all the wonderful things you can do and how easy it is, and there's a little video that shows, try to get you to buy the product. So this is how marketing QR codes have mostly been used for marketing purposes, and everybody can use them. There's a simple app they're free, and people have seen a lot of marketing usage of QR codes, but there are a lot of other uses for QR codes. These are all products with QR codes on them that I've run across in my daily life in the last couple of months. So you can see on a Dell power supply, on an Epson print cartridge, and then all of these other things run the gamut. Some of them are electrical devices. Some of these are a controller for the solar panels on my house, paperwork from an organization. Companies have realized that, hey, QR codes are much more powerful than your standard barcode, which can only hold one string of numbers. You can put a lot more information into a QR code. So, for example, if I scan, if you pull out your scan reader and scan it on the screen right now, instead of a little thing popping up taking you to some web address, all that you get from that first one on the left there is the number 126480. So they've taken a QR code and all they've stored in it is a 6-digit number. This lower one here, that's from the car I rented to go to the RLA conference in Vegas. If you scan that, all you're getting is that like 10-character string that identifies that particular car within the rental car organization. So it's using it to store some information, but really not very much. If you scan this QR code, you can see they've incorporated a longer string. So they've got what seems to be a product number and then some kind of model and then some kind of configuration. We don't really know, but they've stored more information in there. But in order to separate the information, they've decided to use little hashtags or pound signs or whatever you want to call them to break it up. So you can store a lot of information. In fact, you can store up to 4,000 characters in a QR code. The problem is that everybody is reinventing their own wheel as far as what they're going to store and how you're going to read it and what's it going to mean. And so there's no ability for you to scan a QR code from one of your supply chain partners and automatically know what all the little numbers in there are supposed to mean. And this is where what our solution is. So we're all familiar with the web. You go to a website and your browser knows what all these little tags mean because there's this consortium that has defined exactly what all these things mean, and your browser knows what these things mean, and so the web pages all come up uniformly on everyone's browser. And if you look at the front page of the WC3C that is in charge of that, they talk about open standards, and that's exactly what we're developing, an open standard not for the internet, but for QR codes. So here's a QR code that Bruce printed out at the show in Vegas. And if you scan that with your QR code reader right now, what you're going to see is a bunch of little tags that provide information about what kind of product this was on. And you can see this was from a GoPro. So your software for a customer or a retail partner would know what to do with all that. And you could put whatever fields you want to or don't want to in your QR code. But when the person scans it, instead of seeing all this ugliness, they're going to see an app. And they're just going to click on the app. Oh, okay, so I see you've got a 21-inch iMac. Oh, what are your questions? Do you want to register it? Do you want to buy accessories? What do you want to do? And this app will work on any product. They don't have to download an Apple app or a Dell or anything, just one app, and they can access information from any QR code on any product. But we're going to talk about QR codes primarily, but what we're doing is very platform independent or interface independent. QR codes are, of course, ugly, and you can jazz them up. So there's, if you scan that Reverse Logistics Association logo there, that'll take you to our standards page. So you can make them look not as bad. You can etch them into metal. You can etch them into stone. You can burn them into wood. But still they're ugly. And companies spend all this time and effort making an aesthetically beautiful product, aren't going to want to junk it up with a QR code. Now, it could be on the bottom of a monitor or something where you're not going to see it, but maybe still people don't want that. So you can have an RFID tag, and we could store all this information, all these characters within the RFID tag. So they could access the same app, could get the information through an RFID tag, or maybe the device has Bluetooth, or maybe you could just, if it's a device that you could just plug in, like a laptop, external hard drive, something like that, you have gigabytes of space, and we're talking about 4 kilobytes of space. And as we move to a connected future where everything's connected to the internet, the need for QR code may not be there. On the other hand, we've talked to people in the electronics arena who said that one of their real problems is something comes back and it's a brick. It doesn't power up, doesn't do anything, so you have no way to know how much memory is on it, what kind of hardware is inside of it necessarily. So there's where a very small QR code could make that very helpful. So these offer a ton of benefits for consumers, and they can also offer a ton of benefits for supply chain people. Finance wants to know, where did things go, who has it, what do you have exactly, because we need to figure out what to value this thing at on our books, what came in, what got shipped out, what's inside this package, trying to figure out at the end of life, consumers want to know, can I recycle this, can I throw it away, is it hazardous? In logistics, you want to know, does this have hazardous content? Is it okay to send? As I said earlier, there'll be a consumer app, but there'll also be different apps for supply chain personnel or repair and refurbished personnel, and so they could access different information within the QR code. And then lastly, on a marketing perspective, and this is what you're going to see later with Bruce, but just to help you understand why we're so excited about this, if somebody scans a QR code, we can capture exactly where on the planet they were standing. So were they at Fry's? Were they scanning this from South Dakota? Were they scanning this from Brazil? You know where your products are purchased, but you have no way to know where they end up. And so earlier when we talked about the cost of information, people don't send in the cards, but now you could discover, hey, you know what, I have a lot of installed units in Brazil. Maybe I want to address that. QR codes also could simplify the aesthetics of some things. For example, this is the power supply on my laptop. And there are like 20 logos on there saying that this power supply has met the electrical specifications of all kinds of countries and organizations. You can just scan a QR code and have the app tell you whether it meets it, and then perhaps there's not a need for all of these logos right on the side of the device. So we free up a lot of space that could allow us to share other information with people instead of all of these little logos and icons on there. So we've developed this QR code to allow to share information. And what we are envisioning is that a company will develop a variety of QR codes for different applications in different situations. So like that bag of flower fertilizer, there will always be a need for QR codes, perhaps, for customers who are thinking about buying something and just want to get some more information as they look at the retail display. Maybe you've taken it home, now you're trying to figure out how to make it work, or you've got and you want to know, how do I get the manual, et cetera. You have it, you had this TV sitting in your living room for 10 years, and now you're trying to figure out what to do with it, how do I get support. Having something on the outside of the product would be very helpful right then, or an RFID chip to communicate, or internal memory to connect with a cable of some sort. And then once you open it up inside, there can be QR codes that provide information specific to the needs of the refurbisher or the repair person who's trying to fix it. So we think QR codes can really help get the right information to the right person at the right place at the right time in a way that's just not possible currently. So with the QR code, if you've ever scanned one, they register and scan within less than a second. So what could a person do? Get information, get a question answered before they even buy it. Once they've bought it, you saw the button earlier on the screenshot of the app, they could register the item. they're having a problem, they could get a website for information. How do I find the manual? How do I go to an online chat? How do I make a phone call to get some help? If all of that fails and I need to send it in, they could generate an RMA. They could find out, is this under warranty? If it's not, they could buy an extended warranty just by tapping a button on their phone. So these are all ways to get information to the customer's hand without the need for a human to be involved. So we're looking at potentially savings of customer service support costs, not to mention just making it easier and having more satisfied customers. They could get information about trade-ins or recycling, end-of-life uses. Really think these can provide a lot of opportunities to put information into the hands of customers. What kind of products? Really, we can't think of anything that you couldn't put a QR code on, or that you couldn't make the case for wanting the QR code on. So this is just a list of some of the things that we thought of, but really can't imagine anything that you wouldn't want one on. So now we're going to kind of walk through some of the other places that, ways that they could be used. Ken, did you want to, I've just been talking up a storm here. Did you want to jump in about anything as we go here?
Well, basically what we're trying to create is, what we are creating, sorry, not trying to, what we've created is the idea that a QR code handling 4,000 characters can include all of the barcode information, all of the stuff that you've got currently on your products, and there's still room left over. What more would you want to add? And we realize that it is all a benefit to almost every aspect of the business. I mean, finance gets benefits from increased automation possibilities. There's possibilities for much better analytics. Sales and marketing get to do pre-sales support. They get more revenue from better access to extended warranty sales. Support gets much better access to the customer, much easier access without having to go through call centers. Every aspect of business is improved by using the full potential of a QR code. Our uniqueness is that we are allowing multiple fields of information so that you only have to have one QR code instead of 5 of them, although that one QR code would be different on the packaging, on the product, inside the product. But next slide.
So just let me piggyback on something that you just said, that think about how often you've called and you're talking to somebody in tech support in a foreign country and you have to spell your name 3 or 4 times and you have to find your serial number and you have to find blah, blah, blah. All that information is already contained. You already have that. And so when you go to call them through the app, well, I guess everything's just in one place already.
So we can just flip through these quickly. Everybody can read it. But basically, we've identified that marketing could use this. Next. Support. I mean, you can actually, with the QR code, you can push a button and automatically make a phone call or enter a chat room. Next. The geotagging is going to be extremely important in terms of it addresses issues like counterfeiting and gray market. You're able to create very meaningful analytics that help with financial planning and forecasting. Next. Hazardous materials. You can identify it at one level for a consumer that says, yes, this contains hazardous materials, but you can have another field on there that has exactly which hazardous materials are on there and directions for what to do for spills or problems. The types of materials for recycling. Are there precious metals? A number of our companies that we're in dialogue with are really interested in creating a digital toe tag. I think that's Intel's word, for creating a digital repair record for reuse and refurbishing. Next. Yes, here's that was something brought up by Best Buy, that right now each product, when you return it, has a requirement list of what's needed for return from the manufacturer. Some require, for instance, that you bring the power cord. So wouldn't it be nice if there was a scannable field that said, that Best Buy could scan it and say, oh, you need to bring us a power cord before you can return this. All of that can be digitized. So next.
Well, let me just say the counterfeiting data on that slide there, that it's also one of the things that some of the people we've been working with are very concerned about or very interested in, is that the information that's stored in any one of those fields can be encrypted at the choice of the manufacturer. Can choose to encrypt any of that information, which can really help with security. And if you're trying to prevent people from counterfeiting your products, they could put a QR code on there, but they can't fake the encrypted data field. So that should be another bonus in preventing, helping fight counterfeiting.
Yes. So one of the number of the companies pointed out that right now, Customs and Department of Transportation, when you're shipping something, you got this big sheath of paperwork that you have to have all this data. Wouldn't it be nice if the custom agent could just go up and scan it and get almost all of the data scanned, rather than having to have this sheath of paperwork that has to be flipped through? It would totally expedite shipping. So let's see here. What was this one? The truth is that we're not mandating, we're not regulating what people have to say. Each manufacturer is going to make their own choices about what fields they put on which part of a product. It is important, we think, that it be on the product, because packaging often gets separated, and especially if you've got a dead product. But there's each manufacturer chooses himself and what to put, and then just prints the label on the product. So this is not a mandated standard. People can use it, and we will add fields as they're suggested and required. And this is just a listing. This is where, Bruce comes in.
This is
hi, everybody. Ron, anything else to wrap up on that? I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Let me see here. How do I, so I hit stop sharing now. How do I pass the ball back to you, Galen?
Galen,
it's
can
in
you
Bruce's. Bruce has it. Did you want it, Paul or Bruce? I'm sorry.
Bruce.
Okay, hold on just a second here.
I wasn't seeing how to pass it back. It seemed like as the host you probably
Okay. Paul, it should be in your hands.
Yeah, only it's Bruce needs it, not Paul at this point.
Galen, Bruce needs it, yeah, not Paul.
Well, we had it in Bruce's hands, so we'll move it back there.
Okay, perfect.
Hold on a second here.
All right.
Bruce, it's back in your hands again.
Okay, great. So, hi everybody, and my name is Bruce Brown. I'm with Information Solutions. We're a Silicon Valley software development company, and we've been involved with this RLA standard process for about 2 years now, in terms of working with the committee and being part of the discussions trying to help get the standard evolved. And I just wanted to mention, I know that the callers are coming in from a bunch of different disciplines. So some of the things that we've already said probably have resonated with you because maybe you were involved in reverse logistics, or maybe it resonated with you because you're part of the sales and marketing team and you're thinking about how you can increase your sales or increase visibility into what happens to your products. And I just wanted to reinforce what Ron and Ken have already said. The interesting thing that we've got is by putting a very simple thing, a formatted label that is readable by smart devices on products, on displays, and so on, we can affect a change in the way the world operates in terms of business. We can make it easier for consumers to make purchases, for consumers to get support, for manufacturers to increase their sales. So we're talking about real bottom line business issues here. And I just dug up this slide while Ron was talking because it reminded me that of some of the issues that we talked about early on in the committee. For instance, extended warranty sales represent a lot of money for companies. There's a really good markup on those, assuming, of course, your products are doing well. And the probability of buying an extended warranty drops by 50% the minute that the customer walks out the door. Well, we've got a way to put a button on their smartphone so when they scan the product, it offers them another opportunity to buy an extended warranty. Product registration, you know those little bounce back cards that you're supposed to fill out every time you buy something, or you're supposed to go to a website to fill them out? Nobody does it. There's like less than 1% product registration. So what's the downstream effect of this? The effect is that companies don't get that opportunity to continue to market to people who've already bought their products. So there's a brand loyalty that's a possibility. And on the reverse logistics side of it, we get up to 15% warranty fraud because people return stuff that's out of warranty, it's years old, they didn't register it, and the companies just don't want to fight about it. So we can affect all of that. We can make it easy for the consumer. We can make it easy for trade-ins, upgrades, warranties, for all this loyalty. On the return side, I think you've already heard about returns and also tech support, having to call up and get people who have you spell your name 5 or 10 times while they're filling out a form and so on. It's really a tedious process, and we believe that we have some technology here that will help facilitate that because we could make it easier to get through the problem solving, problem determination, and the returns process, even to the point of having the RMA, the returns paperwork, pop up on your printer at home just so you can stick a label on a box if that is what's needed. We went into, as a committee, we went into a lot of details about the recycling industry and how we could improve that whole industry by putting better labeling on both on the outside of the product and the inside of the product so they could identify hazardous materials, that they could identify valuable materials, valuable precious metals and so on in a more efficient way. If you happen to ever watch one of these YouTube videos about how recycling companies work, they are the biggest trash masher in the world. They just tear things to shreds, melt it down, and hope they get the right stuff out. It's only on the very expensive stuff that they actually can take the time to try and figure out what things to pull out by hand. And finally, if you're a manufacturer, my favorite example is walking into my local Walmart, looking at a wall of big screen TVs and going like, oh wow, those three look really good. I wonder what the difference is between them. And then realizing there was nobody in that store who could answer my question, at least nobody who was paid to answer my question. If I could walk up to that same product display, scan a code on the display, and in this case we keep talking about QR codes, but these specially formatted QR codes, I could actually push a button on that and get pre-sale support on my phone to answer a question. Or I could get a display on my phone that's highlighting major features, major reasons to buy. In other words, as a manufacturer, I can start affecting sell-through in big box stores, something that I've never really been able to do before. So as Ron and Ken have been saying, the solution is this funny little QR code, but not just your mother's old QR code. It's the QR code using our new labeling standard that sets a way for manufacturers to put information in that code covering a bunch of different things. So here we've talked about, I think we showed the screen earlier, registering the product, getting repairs, returns, accessories, and so on. So lots of opportunity here. let me just quickly show you another view of this, and then I'm going to give you a really high-level overview of what it would. Sorry, wrong screen. My bad. Here we go. So here's, if you will, a traditional cell phone, and as always, you would come to an app, and let's say our app was called Scanner Demo or something. So you would hold your phone up to the QR code. In a second or so, it would scan it, and then you would see information looking something like this. And this may be a little bit small on your screen, but I tried to make it about as big as I could. But basically, and this is just a demo, but basically we're going to be showing, the product was made by Panasonic. It's a 4K TV. If you have pre-sales questions, if I just clicked on that or you were to touch on it on your phone, in this case, I'm actually showing you a phone number just to drive the point home. But if this was actually on your phone and you touched pre-sales question or whatever words to mean that, you would have the phone ringing and somebody would be on the line with you to answer your question so you could decide whether you want to buy that product or not. You get it home and you need support, this could run you to a chat, it could run you to a website like I'm showing here, or it could end up being another phone number where you're getting technical support on the line. So all of these things are things that you can find now, if you dig around enough time and spend enough of your personal effort on websites, going to a manufacturer's website, trying to find the exact product number, trying to find which group you call for support or can't call for support, and so on and so forth. But we're putting it in a very standard sort of way, so it's like super easy. You scan it, you touch a button, you get product support. You touch a button, you register the product. You want to buy the extended warranty that we were talking about before, those lucrative warranties, you touch that. Here I'm showing a URL, but we're actually designing this application so that when you touch that button, you can go ahead and make the purchase of the extended warranty in just a click or two. Really, really simple. So that's the idea, and I know I'm talking kind of fast, but hopefully you guys are hearing the idea. And just to show you a little bit of the magic behind the mirrors here, here's an example. Now this is something that we use by the folks in your organization who are actually making the labels, and I'm not going to try and teach you how to make labels. That's not the purpose of this phone call, nor is this the final system. But I just wanted to show to you that as one is creating a label, you pick which fields you want, decide what kind of information they're going to contain, whether it's going to be a phone number, open up a chat session on the phone or a messaging session, just have some text in it, like in this case, the manufacturer's name is GoPro, so it's just plain text. Could open up a video conference or video chat with you, or could take you to a website. We've also created ways that, and this is some of the things that Information has done that are above what the standard requires. So the standard just has the fields. We've added these kind of usages for the fields so that as a manufacturer you can specify what you want to happen for an individual field. You can also decide that certain fields will be hidden, meaning that they will not be shown to consumers, and we have a professional version of the app. So the app like I was showing on the last screen, so that you can see those. And then we've also added, although it's not shown here, the ability to encrypt the fields, so that if you have confidential information, you don't have to display it. It can only be displayed for on devices that you've approved to read that. An example of this, by the way, is we heard from, I gotta say, half a dozen or a dozen refurbishers who said that a lot of times there's so many products coming back and products come back repeated times. They want to stick a label inside the product that talks about each of the problems they found the last time it was in and the steps they took to remediate the problem. because, and they don't want anybody to be able to read that but them, so they want to actually encrypt the information. And their feeling is that they need that in addition to serial numbers because it's just too easy for products to get sent to multiple repair centers and other issues. So, and then Ken was just mentioning Dell. Dell had mentioned a huge problem with counterfeiting of their products. People buy a product thinking it's made by Dell, but it was actually made by some counterfeiter. Then Dell gets it back because there's some issue with it, and they need a way to quickly decide whether they were the guys who actually made the product or not. And we talked about them encrypting certain information on the label, both on the outside of the product and possibly a label on the inside, so that they could decide very, very quickly whether it was a genuine Dell product or not. This includes the components inside. So, once again, not trying to go into too much detail here, I just wanted to mention that there's a whole bunch of fields. The standard is a living, evolving standard with more fields getting added all the time. And that's great. You don't get obsoleted because you put a label on. Whatever fields you use stay there forever. It's just new fields become available over time. And the software takes care of error correction and producing labels in different sizes. And also there's and I just made the label preview here a little bit smaller for you. And there's a version of this for those of you who are more in the production end of the world that hooks in with your production system. So if you have an enterprise resource planning system, ERP, distribution system, something where it's automatically producing labels, like, and each label is different. For instance, each product has a unique serial number, and you want to have the serial number included in the label. Then our plug-in version of this application takes over. And then I just want to share one last thing with you, and I'll be very quick about it. But this is, to me, is really, really exciting because it's a vision of what will happen in the future. So this is in a simplistic version of an analytics system. So for those of you who deal with those kind of systems, please understand this is just meant for simple demoing, not for a detailed look at how those work. In this system, we've got a bunch of retail stores. So this is Lowe's, and you'll notice that it's changing cities. So different cities for Lowe's, Home Depot, Fry's Electronics, some stores you're probably familiar with. And we've been talking about how people can go into a store and scan one of these labels on a product display and get information that would be useful for them in deciding whether to buy or not buy the product. Then we've talked about how when they take the product home, there would be a different label on the packaging or on the product that they would scan, and that would have things like serial number and so on, so they could register it, they could get product support. Well, every time they scan, whether they're scanning in the retail store or they're scanning at home, or it's getting scanned because it's now in a recycling center or a repair center, every one of those is a place for us to gather information because smart devices are geolocation aware. They know where you are when you're scanning, and with users' permission, which is generally what people give, we can track each one of the scans that's done. So, for instance, here, scans at Best Buy and in Milpitas at this particular time, the code was scanned, and in particular, the person touched on the button for product support. In Palo Alto, somebody wanted to get accessories. They touched on the button. Another one wanted product support. So I'm starting to gather some interesting information about how people are dealing with the product once it's left the manufacturing dock. And in particular, if I come down someplace, I made the screen big, but here, Home Depot. So we were using GoPro as our guinea pig. They provided some products for us at the show, and they're very enthusiastic about this standard. And so I used an example here where you can see at Home Depot, every single time somebody scanned a GoPro or went and scanned a display for GoPro cameras at Home Depot, they ended up with a pre-sales question. Well, it kind of makes sense. I mean, we all know Home Depot doesn't sell GoPro cameras. But my point is that interesting data starts showing up, which would allow you to say, oh, this store is selling better than these other stores. Why is that? What can I do to affect marketing? Are there better product displays there? Is there better sales support? What can I do to improve the bottom line? Or if I start seeing a whole bunch of certain products showing up for the minute people get home, they're immediately on the line with tech support, I know I got a problem, and the sooner I can identify that problem and the sooner I can fix it. Similarly, if it's only that they have a problem in a particular location or buying from a particular store. So once again, kind of fast. This was meant to be an overview, not detailed in terms of how you actually would use the product. But I did want to hand over to Paul Rupp now, and Paul's going to give us a demo showing how these codes can be used by one of those major systems like enterprise resource planning system, distribution system, return system. So Galen, once again, if you could help us with passing the baton.
Bruce, if you could just hop back to the first demo screen you were showing, just one quickly. The one where you generate the codes. It's kind of in the back of the background right now.
Sure, this one.
The one over on the far right there. Yeah, that one. The takeaway, an additional takeaway out of this is that we're aware that if you're a company with a lot of SKUs to manage, you've thought of, I got to make a QR code for every one of these. The Bruce didn't go into it, and I'm not saying you need to, but if he clicks on the templates there, you can create the person at GoPro could create this QR code and then save it and bring it back later and edit it if the name or the model number or the ID or something changes. And then I could save basic templates where all the fields are populated and just have to add one little thing. So we've been working to develop tools to make it hopefully not terribly burdensome for somebody to manage all these QR codes. So we've really been trying to think through a lot of the things that people would need to be able to, the tools someone would need to be able to implement this. I just wanted to make sure we got that point made. So Galen, if you could pass it on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, somebody just raised their hand, so got to figure out how to get. Tim, are you, can we hear you? Do you have a question, Tim? Might want to check and see if your microphone's turned on.
I don't think his mic is.
Okay, well, okay, on your screen, can you see if he's typing in a question or chatting or anything?
You should be able to see questions. Let's see here. I'm taking a peek. Nope, I don't see anything from Tim.
Okay, well, maybe he can either try again or...
You can send him from your screen, you can send him a text, okay, a chat.
Okay, so I'll do that, but I want to make sure that we give Paul a chance to do his part of the presentation. So, Galen, what do we need to do to hand it over to him?
Nothing, he has control.
I have control. Hi. So Paul Rupp now here, and I'm with Andlor Logistics Systems. And we're a logistics software company, and specifically we have a product called Backtracks, which we use to manage logistics. And what I'd like to do today is share my screen, but also I want to show you from a returns processing perspective how having these QR codes or having codes with multiple data in makes our life so much easier on the returns processing side. Particularly when you use something what I call smart software. And so we're in the logistics world, we're very used to just dealing with single barcodes, but now we'd like to be able to deal with multiple pieces of data at the same time. And we can take that information, and by using smart software, it'll help us make many more decisions. When we're moving products in a forward direction, the processing is quite straightforward. But when we have to process returns, the more information we have, the better decisions we can make. And really what we're trying to do is get those returns processed quickly and make get them converted into other forms of cash. So let me just hold there. And how do I, Galen, sorry, I'm not seeing how I share my screen.
Oh, do I have it?
No, I have control. I just need the share. I don't, meeting share.
On the menu bar up at the top, Paul.
Got it. Okay, I am sharing my screen now. So just to start out, so we've been talking about these codes on the Reverse Logistics RLA website. If you go to the Standards Committee area, we have listing of fields. So here's a quick listing. So there's lots of fields. Right now we're at about 75, but actually there's a lot of fields. And we're actually also partnering with some of the big companies like the GS1 group, which already has the standard for all the barcodes that you see in retail. So they're very excited to be partnering with us on the return side. So so I just thought I'd mention that just as we get started. Okay, so our goals again in terms of processing. So how do these QR codes help us on our side? So we can be faster processing, more automation, handling returns. Processing returns requires a lot of handling, and what we're trying to do is find ways to handle them less, using faster processing, automating things more, using less labor, less training for our staff, because again, with more information there, then we have the people that are handling the returns have less need to make judgment calls because some of the information's there, so we can make better decisions. Again, with using smart software, the software can take that information and process it, and then tell the user what needs to happen. And again, typically with our returns, first we want to make sure we've got a happy customer, but second, we want to make sure that we're able to recover value out of them, out of the products that are coming back. And if it's time consuming, then lots of times Amazon used to throw all their books in a truck and sell it by the truckload. But if it's quick and easy to process the returns, sometimes we can gain a lot of value.
Paul, can you just click on that maximizing your screen in the upper right-hand corner of that presentation?
And just to make it larger?
Yes, it should make it bigger.
Here, I'm just going to do this, actually.
Thank you.
So these codes, so how do we speed receiving at a returns processing facility? So we're just going to go through that. As you know, sometimes the returns are coming back in. Somebody has to handle them. So they're going to scan. So today we're going to show you how you can scan the product, and then they've got to make a decision. Oftentimes, so now we've got this returned product. Unlike forward logistics, where we just put it on a shelf in a warehouse, or if I'm at the retailer, I put it back on the shelf in the retail store or in the inventory. Lots of times things are in different conditions. So the more information we have about those conditions, the better decisions we can make. Sometimes we're going back to a refurbishment. Sometimes it's out of warranty. We may send those back to the customer. Sometimes we just need to scrap it either because it doesn't have much value or it's damaged. So the nice thing is at the bottom, one QR code scan can capture many data fields, and that'll help us with our decision processing. So I'm going to do 3 examples this morning. We were kind enough to, GoPro was kind enough to lend us some product at the show. So we've got 3 scenarios. The first scenario is just a fast scan. So on the lower, at the top is the QR code, and the bottom is the fields. So the key fields that we want in processing that we're interested in, we know it's GoPro's manufacturer, but the second key field is what is the product. So in this case, the red field that's highlighted tells us it's model number C31 31211, and then it also tells us what the serial number is. So I know what the serial number is, and that may help us in processing and certainly tracking. So on our first scan, that's really all we're interested in. On the second scan I show you, what we do now is we take advantage of the smart software. So we not only do we take the model number, so we've identified what the model number is and the serial number, but now we're also looking at the date of manufacture, which is on the code, and the length of the warranty. So it's 12 months, and we can see it was manufactured in 2012. So we know there's a pretty high likelihood that this product is out of warranty, and we're going to want to handle that differently. In the third scenario we're going to show, we've got a product which is actually the battery pack for the GoPro. So what's happening in this case. So when we do the scan, we know what the product is, we know what the serial number is now, but we also want to know what the material is that's in there. So that material will tell us that, hey, you know, this is not just a regular thing, it's got a battery in it, and we need to special handle it because it's got lithium ion within the system. So we want to be careful of how we're doing that. So, so with those three things in mind, I'm just going to flip over to software. So this is our software. It's web-based, and just show you what it's like in real life in a warehouse or in a retail store when you're having to handle these, and then the savings that we're going to get, and the way it's so much easier when we've got information. So sorry, there's lots going on. So I'm just at a home screen, and the first thing I'm going to show you. So this would be assuming we've got an RMA coming in from a customer. So if it's coming in on an RMA, or if I'm Best Buy, I've got I don't have an RMA. I'm just handling product at the receiving level, but this would be in a warehouse or a third-party processing center, and the process will be the same in both those scenarios. So in this case, I know I've got the Hero Black coming in, a Hero 3, a Hero 4, a Hero 3, and a battery pack coming back, and I'm waiting for a whole bunch of units. And these are coming back in a truckload from the Walmart return center, for instance. So the first thing I want to do is to start receiving them, and I'm going to use mobile receiving. Let's make it a little larger for you. So this can be done on, typically it's done on a hand scanner, but we can use it on a bigger screen as well. So when those receipts come in, so I've got a return that's coming in. I know what the RMA or the order is. So the next thing I do is I just take the scanner and I scan the field in. So what happened there was because normally in receiving we've got to do two scans. We've got to scan once to find out what the item is. This is if it's got a scan barcode at all, which the standard will help a lot with just by having things barcoded. Because lots of products that are coming back don't have any barcodes on them at all. But in this case, we were able to scan the barcode. Next thing we've got to do is scan the serial number. Well, because we had a QR code scan, I don't have to do two scans anymore. So I've just got the item. I scanned once, that gave me the item code. It gave me the serial number, and it tells me that it's containing, in this case, it's containing gold. So we're not as concerned about that as in terms of being, it's a recoverable metal. But I don't need it in this decision. And it tells me that I've received that serial number already. And so that was our first one. So that was our fast scan of our Hero 4. Our second product that we're doing is we're going to do a fast scan, and this is our Hero 3. This is the old one. So hopefully we want the software to tell us that it's out of warranty. And again, we get that all in one scan. So if you want to see what a scan looks like, so essentially when the scanner reads it, it's going to read a long line of code that looks like this. So in our second scan, again, it's the same order. So we scan the QR code, and it goes like this. It tells us automatically it's the CHE, which is the Hero 3. Now, because it's smart software, we've got it set up to ask the user, tell me what condition this is in, and they're going to say, okay, this unit's damaged. Comes back and says, okay, I know what the serial number is, and I know it contains silver. And as soon as they enter that, again, because we're using smart software, it tells us, okay, that unit is out of warranty, because it knew, based on the warranty dates, it knew that this was out of warranty, and we wanted to special handle it, so it's telling the user to move it to scrap, and the user says, okay, that's fine, and let's go back and do another one. So again, the processing was easier. Now we're going to process the third one, which is, in this case, we've got the lithium-ion battery. So again, our code looks like this. It's stored in the background on the QR code. And as soon as we go, we do a quick scan. Battery pack comes back, and again, we're asked what condition it's in. We tell them we're going to scrap it, and we enter it, and it says, this unit contains metals. Have you scrapped it correctly? So again, we want the users to know, the users would have certain rules, so normally the message would say they wanted to put it into a specific location or a specific area. In this case, we were just asking the question, and we click OK, and we're done. So kind of a simple process, and as a quick summary, that was all that I had to go through. But it just wanted to give you a bit of an indication on the operation side of how the QR code makes our life so much easier. Back to you, Ron, I guess.
I've got a question there, Paul. From your experience in playing with this, how much time on an intake transaction would you guess this enhanced scanning saves per unit? A minute? 2 minutes?
There's two time savings things. One, the first time saving is the scanning time. So on your scanning time, we're saving 2 or 3 scans, which doesn't sound like much, but when you're processing, like lots of the facilities are processing 2,000 or 3,000 of these units a day per person, so it adds up to quite a time savings. The second time saving is because we have so much information there, we can set up the smart receiving and the rules engine, the rules engines in it, and that saves a huge amount of time. What happens in a lot of returns operations now is they'll take something once, they'll scan the item code, and then it's got to go to a different station, and that station's where they assess what the condition is. And the next station, okay, did we get a serial number, and oh, does this one have metal in it? So it gets handed off numerous times, and it's that handoff time that we're trying to get rid of. And because we've got a lot of the data, we can push all that decision making back to the first guy that's touching it, and that's where the real savings arises.
So a significant time savings by doing this.
Yes, and also better disposition. So again, with more information, we can make decisions up front, and typically it's going to result in faster processing and better disposition decisions, so we can get higher value out of the products that have been returned.
Good.
Well,
so it's Mike. I have a question.
Please.
So Tim was trying to ask a question of, I think you mentioned that there's 4,000 character codes in these scanning labels.
Yes.
Does that change with the size? I know that you can see different sizes, so if you end up with a smaller label, do you end up with smaller character, or is it a higher density?
And that's where each manufacturer has to sort of balance his own sense of the size, the resolution, and choose the specific content. I will point out, though, that the technology behind this as optics. I mean, right now my cell phone camera handles like 12 megabits or whatever, pixels, sorry, and that's increasing. So I expect this to be a moving standard where as technology evolves, the 4,000 characters is just today's limit with a relatively large QR code. Yes, smaller codes have less capacity, but this will evolve.
So I just want to say it a slightly different way. The QR standard allows for excuse me, up to 4,000 characters to be put into those little squiggly lines. And obviously, if you make the QR code a ½ inch by a ½ inch, those little squiggles get really, really close together. So it's harder and harder to read them the more you put into it. And part of what we do on the software side is we actually produce warnings as people are creating labels. So if you try and put in so much information in a label and make it so small, we start putting up some warnings saying, X% of the world's cell phones won't be able to read this, for instance. So it's reasonable. Remember, though, our vision is that companies are going to put different information on different codes based on usage. So you'll probably have 4 or 5 or 6 fields that you'll use on a retail product display because it's all about just trying to close the sale. And then when the first customer gets the product home, the label on there probably has some more fields because it's about selling extended warranties and registrations and tech support and all that kind of stuff. So far we haven't seen anything that looks horribly bad. We demoed things at the RLA show in February where we were using, I think we did some labels with like 1,500 characters on it, and that was a lot of stuff. Remember, not all information actually is physically on the label. Sometimes you're saying that you want the information to come off of a website or someplace else, so it's redirecting it. And the standard, by the way, has allowed us to compact a lot of information where other ways of formatting the information, and I will not go technical, I promise, but other ways of formatting the information would have used up a lot more space than the way that we're doing it now. So, Mike, did that answer your question? I know it was kind of like a lengthy answer.
Yeah, no, I think it answered the question, but the other question that I would have is there a standard generated yet to say what is on each code? So if you ended up with 3 or 4 of these, you said, well, pre-sales is this type of code, service is this type of code. Is there a labeling on the code itself that says this is post-sales, this is pre-sales, so that as the customers add, or sorry, as the suppliers add more labels to it, you can tell which one you need to scan, or you're going to have to scan them all and say, no, this isn't the one I want. No, I've got to scan the other one.
We've talked about that, about the need to just write some English text characters below the QR code to like, okay, this is this is a field service, or this is marketing, or we've talked about sort of some different labels to write underneath the QR code so to address exactly that question.
Okay, I'm wondering does it work if you put a color behind it, or do you have to have white? So you could set up a standard that says all yellow codes are pre-sales, or light blue are shipping or recycling or something.
I think the way that companies are probably going to do it is, because you want to have contrast between those little dots in the code. Yeah, you can have different color backgrounds as long as the scanner can differentiate it. But I think in all likelihood, most companies will put something around the QR code, different colors, or some words underneath, or maybe the company's name, something like that.
All right.
To differentiate those things. Also, there are websites you can even find them on where you can generate a QR code and stick like a logo in the middle of it, and technically it's feasible. It uses up some of the space that's used for error correction in the code, so I'm not super excited about doing it that way, but it's certainly up to the manufacturer, supplier, if they want to try and embed a logo or something in the middle of the code.
Yeah, it'd be up to them. It's going to reduce the amount of content they can put in there, but if you want to send people to a URL, obviously the natural thing is to give it in sort of a bit.ly type of format to use up as few characters as possible.
Yeah, and we're supporting that in the code that we've got as well.
Yeah.
That just means that it would be a much shorter URL to get to the website or wherever we need.
Yeah. Great question, though. Any other questions? Galen, can you see if anybody's virtually raising their hand? I think maybe Galen is on.
I've been talking with, I saw Tim's question. I haven't seen any other questions, okay? There's just one more person who's trying to connect, and I know it's at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Well, I guess if there aren't any more questions, does anybody else have anything else?
Just Ron, I would just add that if anybody's interested in taking a little bit deeper look at the technology that we're providing, I'd be more than glad to talk to them privately, and you can reach me at 510-353-1868, and I imagine we can send that out to the group as well.
Yeah, or yes, certainly send me an email, ronlemke@unr.edu. I should have thought to make the last slide there have all of our contact information so people can follow up with more questions, because we certainly would love to answer them if people have them.
I sent an email out, a chat to everybody so that they could get to the web page, which will give them access to the RL label, to the squirrel label, so that should help everyone. If you just look at your chat section.
Okay. Chat. Okay. Well, I guess if there aren't any more questions, in the interest of honoring everyone's time, I'll thank everybody for participating. We're as I'm sure you can tell, we're very excited about this. I think there's some great opportunities here. I think this can really be a win for consumers. It can be a win for retailers. It can be a win for manufacturers. It can be a win for refurbishers. I really think there's a way to help. And I guess we didn't mention it, but we're not charging anybody to make these QR codes or anything. So it's not going to cost anything on our side to use them, just to have them. Anything else?
Yeah, just so as not to cause confusion, the product's information are actually there's some charges associated with those because of the technology and storing all the data about where the scans are and things like that. But yeah, people are definitely free to go off and try and create one-off tools, to make the codes. It certainly is possible. I think anybody who's doing any volume probably is not going to want to do it on homegrown tools.
No, they're going to want to license some software for that.
I think so. I think so. We'll see.
Yeah.
You can talk to people regardless of how they want to provide go forward on that, and then they can always make their own choice.
All right. Well, I know we're a little over an hour, so I want to thank everyone for your patience and participation, and please contact any of us if you have any questions. So thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.